So what's up guys, Sam here and welcome back to another edition of What's on My Android. Today's setup was one that I created after seeing so many submissions for the best Nova Launcher setups, and without a doubt they inspired me to create what I'm currently using as my daily setup. As you all know, for me it's all about finding the best blend of form and functionality. So in other words, the setup needs to look super clean and appealing whilst also providing me with all that I need without having to negotiate hard to remember shortcuts or folders and so on. Once again, this is my favorite setup so far that I've created, so sit back, enjoy, and let's get started. So first things first, obviously I'm still using Nova Launcher, and just to let you guys know, I am still on the beta program, and so that's great because it brings along a bunch of extra features that aren't on the regular Nova Launcher app. And so one of the examples of that is this new shortcuts feature. So if I long press on the Google Maps icon here, you can see that there's a shortcut to jump directly into the directions to my work or to the directions to my home, which is great. Just goes straight into it, no having to press any other button. So that's really cool. Also, if I long press on the Gmail icon down here, I can also jump straight into composing a message. Now, there's also a bunch of these shortcuts for the Google related apps. So there's two shortcuts here for Google Photos, and then if I long press on Google Drive, there's a search feature, and then also Twitter has them built in, which is just in a recent updates. And so that's a really great feature that comes using Nova Launcher Beta. Now, the apps that have the shortcut option are the ones that have it natively built in because of Android 7.1 Nougat. So if the app hasn't built it for that update, then it won't work here on Nova Launcher Beta, but if it does, then it will work on Nova Launcher Beta. So there's a bunch of apps that obviously don't have it, but I really love having it for Google Maps and for Twitter and things like that. So I really enjoy that shortcuts feature. Nova Launcher Beta is great. I definitely recommend jumping on that program if you get the chance. So let's start with saying that obviously this is a two-page setup. So over here we've got the month calendar widget, which I obviously use in pretty much every setup that I use and that I've shown on this channel. And then obviously this one is just a standard home screen layout with a dock down below, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Firstly, let's chat about that wallpaper. I actually don't remember where I got it from. It may have even come from a Google search. Often I just go to Google to kind of find some high-res images to put in the background. This one's great. It's something that I had sitting in my downloads for a while, and the reason why I like it is because it has just enough amount of color in it to kind of just jazz up the setup a little bit, if you will. Obviously my previous setup had that desaturated wave photo in the background, which was, worked for that setup. But with what I wanted to do with this setup, I wanted a little bit of color there. And obviously having the mountain peak right in the center there is what complements this setup. And I really wanted that minimal space up above for not only my month calendar widget, but also my Google Pill and weather widget up there. Now that Google Pill and weather widget come directly from Nova Launcher. So that's not a custom widget that I've installed using ZuperWidget Pro. It's something that Nova Launcher allows you to set up. Now, if I long press here to go to my Nova Launcher setups, one thing I want to mention is that I've got my desktop locked now. And the reason that I do that is because it allows these shortcuts that I mentioned previously to work a little bit better. Now, they still work if you don't have the desktop locked, but it's not as clean. There's a lot more options there about changing the icons. So once I was happy with my setup, I kind of locked it, and it just makes those shortcuts work a lot better. So all I have to do is long press on that lock symbol, and now it's unlocked. I can jump into my settings. So I don't change my setup once I've got it set up the way I want it to, so that's fine for me. So if we come down to my desktop settings and then search bar style, you can see that I have turned on the Google Pill style search bar, and then you can obviously down here you can change whether it's weather, and if I turn that off, it'll change to the date. Now I prefer having the weather there. I will say, and this is obviously something that they're working on, but the weather is sometimes a little bit slow to update. But to be honest with you, it doesn't worry me too much because it's generally pretty close. And if I click on it, it goes straight into the Google Weather app. But I think that's just a great feature. I love having it built in. It means that everything works very flawlessly. So that's the first thing that I wanted to point out. The next thing I want to point out is that down below here, you can see that I've got a row of 4 colorful dots. Now, you might recognize this from the first episode of the Best Nova Launcher Setups, where Jerry had a similar thing in the bottom left and bottom right of his setup. And I questioned in that video how it was done. A couple people explained to me how to do that, and all you have to do is long press on the folder. Now, the desktop is still locked, so I'm just going to show you this. So you long press on the folder, you hit edit, and then you click on the icon where normally it would show you the icon of the folder, like this one up here. And all I did is you go into CandyCons, and then down here you can see you've got these 10 colorful dots which you can select from, and I've just picked some fairly neutral colors there to kind of blend in with the background. And so that's what I've done here. So I've got 4 folders. Now, this is filled with mainly my Google applications, but there's also, I've got Shuttle Music there. And I just want to mention, I've still got, even though I've got the YouTube app now within a folder, it's still got the swipe up action to open up YouTube Studio. The next folder is obviously my social media accounts. So I've got Facebook, Messenger, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and WhatsApp. And then next to that, we've got just a few really useful apps for me. And then jumping over to the right of that is just another set of 6 apps. So I've tried to keep it pretty uniform. So we've got 6 in each, which kind of keeps things clean. So there are a couple that obviously had less apps than that, but I've kind of filled them out a little bit with apps that I find useful. After that, we've got my dock, and now for the first time, I've got a dock of 5 apps, and unlike my previous setup, you can obviously see my dock at all times. Now, the reason that I've got them showing like this is because obviously with those 4 kind of pretty ambiguous folder icons there, it's handy to just have 5 apps that I use every single day without a doubt, just sitting there ready for me to tap at any time without having to go into a folder. Now, on the left, we've got my dial-up, then Gmail. In the middle, I've got Textra SMS. Now, I want to highlight this because I've mentioned this in a couple of videos, but I'm using Textra SMS as my messaging app of choice, so I really recommend that. Now, I use Textra SMS in conjunction with Quick Reply SMS, which I featured in my top Android apps of September, and basically that gives me inline replies like is seen on Android Nougat. So that's just a great feature, but definitely check out Textra SMS. There's so much customization that you can have with that app, and it just kind of looks really clean, and yeah, I really like the look of it. To the right of that, we've got Google Maps, which again, I mentioned before, has this shortcuts feature, which I find actually super useful. I use it every single day pretty much. And then to the right of that, we have Google Chrome, which is my browser of choice and has been for quite some time. Like I said, on the right page, we have the month calendar widget, which I generally set up on every single setup that I use. And other than that, that's pretty much all the apps that I wanted to talk about. Aside from that, I use the Simpacts icon pack for my dock and for my app drawer apps, and that's, if you remember, the icon pack that I recommended not only in my best apps of November just recently released, but I also featured it pretty heavily in the best Nova Launcher setups episode 1 video, because a couple of those guys had used this Simpacts icon pack, which I love the look of. So that is pretty much my entire setup. Now, obviously, you can probably tell that I've got this little arrow indicator down there, and if you didn't know what that was, that's just indicating that it's a swipe to open dock, which is obviously also a Pixel Launcher feature. So you can probably tell that my setup is very Pixel Launcher-esque, just with a little bit of flair added to it. Now, let me just do a quick scroll through my app so you can see what I have installed. I've done a bit of a cull recently. Some of these apps are still kind of installed from previous videos, just testing them out, seeing if I want to include them in any videos. But for the most part, these apps are all ones that I use on a pretty regular basis. But anyway, that's it for this video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and if you did, feel free to hit that like button. But aside from that, thanks heaps for watching, and I will catch you guys later.